Good evening.
Ooh, 10 people, 25 people. Everybody go ahead and click that like button. Help us out. Thank you. Your first duty for the night.
Lafayette.
Thumbs up.
Illinois. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve. Steve, your question's going to be first up for tonight.
Connecticut.
Alabama.
Wichita Falls.
How is everybody in Corona land? Those of y'all that have children, how sick of seeing your kids are you? Raise your hand. I'm gonna have to start going to the range to to get some steam vented off.
North Carolina. Mexico, Georgia.
Mexico. Open the school, yeah, right. Can you imagine the first day of and I'm not talking about this homeschool bullshit. I'm talking about the first day of actual, after all of this crap is done, when you can actually drop your children off. I swear to God, I'm not even going to come to a full stop. I'm just going to tuck and roll, kids, tuck and roll, get out. It affects me working so badly. I'm a single introvert who lives off reading books, so I don't have even a fourth of the mental stress you parents have with kids. You are so fortunate. And I hear people say that, they have younger kids or their kids are older and they're like, I don't know how you people with younger kids do it. We have kids that range from age of 9 to 17. And we have 4 kids. So the 2 older ones, I don't really even give a crap. Do what you got to do. I don't care. Figure it out online. But 3rd grade, no. I mean, these kids are can you imagine what the world's going to be like in 20 years run by a bunch of kids that were homeschooled by a bunch of semi-alcoholic parents that had had enough?
In schools where they were indoctrinated into socialism.
You guys, hopefully you don't hear too much crap on our videos because, yeah, they're stomping. They're, I mean, we threaten them to an inch of their life, but, that only works so much. Steve, we're going to start you off tonight, Steve. If anybody would like to make donations, I'm going to drop a link into the chat. It is for Donor Box. You can also go to salonarmsolutions.com and get the same link and put your question in the comment section. I'll get an email and you will bump to the top of the chat for the night. And that's our preferred method because Google takes 30%. But either way, we will be pulling questions, paid, unpaid, whatever. We will get through as many as possible.
Hey, Adnan.
Hey, Adnan. Okay, so Steve has a question. His son has a brand new Beretta APX combat model pistol. He says it's an awesome pistol. The thread protector on the barrel's muzzle continually comes loose. When it comes loose, it changes the point of impact. He is not running a suppressor on the pistol at this point. This combat APX will be run unsuppressed for a while. I'm pretty sure this thread protector coming loose is a common problem among threaded barrels. So my question would be, is there any reliable way to keep that thread protector tight?
The best way is to put a rubber O-ring on there if you can find one that's that size. That is something that is done occasionally. Quite frankly, I would just remove it. I wouldn't have it on. It's not. You're not going to damage it. I would highly doubt you really have to do something way above and beyond to damage it. Quite frankly, I'd just take it off. But if you can find a rubber O-ring to go on there, that might help you out quite a bit.
Edward says, hey, you wonderful folks in Texas, if we could keep the rest of the country out of Florida, we'd be fine. Yeah, it's interesting with Disney World opening back up. That's all. I wonder how those numbers are going to be affected from that because they just opened up, I think, last week. Ivan on Donor Box. Thank you, Ivan. I would like to get your opinion on the use of a .22 LR conversion like the CMMG and a direct impingement AR rifle, particularly an LWRC. Is there any potential damage could result in doing so? And would someone that wants to shoot on the cheap just being better off just going with a dedicated unit?
I would, to be honest with you, I would go with a dedicated upper, like a tack sole or something along those lines. The problem is you have a 221 diameter versus a 224 diameter, so you're going to get a lot of leading into that into the rifling. There's a chance of getting some lead plugging up your gas port hole. Accuracy is just really not going to be there because, again, you have an oversized bore versus an undersized bullet. I ended up going with a tack sole dedicated, and it's excellent. It's designed for that. It gives you the accuracy, does everything it's supposed to do. I do have one of those CMMG units here. I used it a couple times. I never would use it again. Again, it was just the rounds don't head space properly. It just, I really would think you prefer better taking that money that you would spend on that conversion and buying a conversion upper receiver.
Kirk, first of all, thank you so much, Kirk, for the delivery. I actually picked up the box today from the P.O. box. Kirk was kind enough to send me 2 bottles of wine. So that's an amazing gift, especially since I have all these kids at home that won't leave. But thank you so much. I finally got a chance to go to the P.O. box and pick it up. Could you please educate us as to the rationale or perhaps contingency organizational theory of Colt model numbers as to the AR-15s, M16s from 601 to 6960? How does one read a model number, example 6920? Does each digit have a separate meaning? Was it a clug, sloppy mishmash that works as in Army unit numbers?
The numbers have nothing to do with Army numbers, so there's nothing to do with military numbers. Colt originally had gone with starting at 600. Model 601. So they went forward from there. For as far as the commercial guns, they started off with SP. And then as time went on, they would go into series, basically, for as far as government models and whatnot. Now, the ones that actually made sense was really only the 6900 series. Because the 6920 basically was your M4 semi-automatic only. 6940, the 40 series would be the monolithic upper. There has never been a rhyme or reason to it. In fact, the numbers were assigned randomly, when they went for the drawings. So if you're looking for logic, there is none. It's just the way that it was. There just was a time when they were doing the, again, the 6900 series that it did make some sense. 6920 series would be all the, the standard carbine upper receiver and barrels, and the 40 series would be all the monolithic, and the 901 series would be the 308. So yeah, I wish there was more logic behind it, but there really isn't.
Thank you to Patrick. He made a donation but didn't put a question in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And apparently, Ken, if you're in the chat, he just donated or joined Patreon. So thank you so much for that. Reed wants to know, if you were a king for a decade, would you have made the change from M193 to M855? If so, why? M193 being the superior round versus soft targets within 300M.
Well, actually, what I would have done was I would have gone with a 62 grain full metal jacket and got rid of the penetrator core. The penetrator core in that process is what's always caused the problems. If you were to put a standard 62 grain full metal jacket made the same way, basically the M193 was, you would retain a lot of that same performance. It was a mistake putting that penetrator core in there. It was something that they wanted to do more for the light support weapons and for more body armor type things. But I think we would have been far better off going with a 62 grain full metal jacket.
Hey, James. He's coming in from Philadelphia. I haven't been there in a while. TC wants to know, wondering if you could comment on the difference of flash hiders, muzzle brakes, and compensators, how they work, what they do, etc. There seems to be so many different designs.
Well, basically, you have a flash hider, which does exactly what it says. It inhibits flash to hide the signature. Then you have what we refer to as a muzzle brake. Muzzle brake, what that's designed for is recoil. It's to decrease recoil. It generally works as a sound enhancer as well. Then you have what's referred to as a compensator, which is a mixture of the two. If you look at the M16A2 compensator, you have the top works as a flash suppressor, the bottom works as a muzzle brake. So it depends on how that it works. Now, why would you want each? Well, if you're someone who doesn't want your signature to be seen, a flash hider would be far more important to you. Not so much with 5.56, but other cartridges, muzzle brakes are a lot better because they decrease that muzzle flip. They give you quicker follow-up shots, but they enhance flash and they enhance noise. And compensators, they do a little bit of each, but neither one really well. You do have tons of different ones. When it comes to the 5.56, for instance, I prefer flash suppressors. I don't really think there's any need to put a muzzle brake on a 5.56. Now, 308, on the other hand, depending on what you're doing, military work, I definitely would say you want to have a flash suppressor because obviously you're going to be engaged in firefights, and you don't want to give your position away any more than you absolutely have to. Commercial hunters, I probably would go with a muzzle brake because it's going to give you less recoil. It's going to give you quicker follow-up shots. So a lot of times it depends on what your use is. Again, the compensator end of it, as I said, I'm not really that big of a fan because they don't do either one. You need to decide which one's more important for you and get one that does that particular task well.
Okay, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to step away for a second because I'm having a hard time reading the questions because my allergies are so bad. I need to go get a pill for this. How do you get your arms gas blocks drilled and pinned?
I have been sort of fortunate that I work a lot with Ryan Leclerc out at Centurion Arms, and generally I buy my barrels from him. I get my barrels from him, which are the Colt hammer forged barrels, and I have him do it for me. I did have one or two done while I was at Colt. The nice thing about it is if you can get somebody who's willing to work with you, if they drill and pin the standard M4 or M16 front sight bases, this will go right into the same machine. It'll line up. It'll work perfectly. But Monty, again, I get the barrels from him, so he does it.
Right in the nick of time. James wants to know, JP tactical rifles, is it good for duty use with their stainless barrels and adjustable gas blocks, or still more of a gamer gun?
For a duty rifle, I would not want stainless steel barrel. I would want a Colt hammer forged or chrome plated or a standard manganese phosphate chrome plated, because if it's going to be in a car, it's going to be subjected to harsh conditions, humidity, and so on and so forth. For a duty gun, I would not want one that has a adjustable gas block. I would want one that's simple, stupid, that's going to work, and you're not going to be able to screw it up. JP rifles, I look at those as far more of a match or competition type rifle, not as a duty rifle.
Scott says, before I purchase a firearm, I see if SAS has reviewed the firearm. We hear that a lot. But, that's what makes this guy good, because he's only going to give you the honest opinion over it. He doesn't really like to make videos of something he doesn't like, which I'm trying to get him to gear towards, He doesn't like doing hate videos.
No,
Hits M14.
it doesn't do either one of us any good.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, just to bring something in to bash it, and, that doesn't seem
He
very
did the exact
professional.
same thing. If you guys were readers of him from, the magazines that he wrote for, numerous magazines, but guns would come in and they didn't work, or they would jam, or they had issues, and he would call them up, and I would hear these conversations and he'd be like, look, I just don't even want to review it because it's just going to do bad for your company, and I'd rather just not, do that for you. But yeah, he doesn't really want to make those videos. But so if he does make a video that he says is good, trust me, it's good. Otherwise, he just wouldn't even want to review it. Bunny wants to know, would you recommend a career in forensic firearms?
Certainly as a career, it's certainly fine. It's difficult to get into, and it's becoming more and more difficult just because of the requirements of the ASCLAD, or the Association of Crime Lab Directors Association. They've taken the position out of the area of being a firearms expert and making you more of just what we refer to as scope jocks, where you're not really a weapons expert any longer, but you're just good at matching, you're doing the scope, microscope work, and so on and so forth. The field's changed quite a bit. But if it's something that you really want, it's the jobs are out there. There's a lot of people retiring. It's there's a lot of stress to it. Doing a lot of testifying in court, it's one of those few jobs out there that if you're wrong once, you get a pink slip rather than gold watch. You can't afford to ever be wrong.
And that was a big stress for him too.
Yeah, anything where you're supposed to be perfect. It also depends on the kind of guys you work with too. If you work with guys who got your back, it's really good. But if you don't, then it can be a lot more difficult. It would definitely be a lot of work, but it's a job that once you get it, if you can maintain it, you'll have a career for life.
I think it's just one of those things where if you're called to it and it's something that you enjoy and you can do, then you love it. It's like me with editing. You couldn't do the editing side of videos. You wouldn't be able to like figure it out. Like you're the tech guy of it. But he would, if you watch our crime series, the photos that especially come in at the very beginning that showed like the marks on the inside of the barrel and everything. And he would have to like match those up. I can't even imagine sitting there for hours a day trying to match those barrel markings up. So yeah, it's like putting the impossible puzzle together. Kendrick wants to know what stopped the AK-74, 103, and non-762 by 39 AKs from catching on in the U.S. Is it just an ammo issue? I'd love a 74, but I'm thinking spend more for 5.56.
I think it has a lot to do with the ammunition issue. There was no manufacturer up until recently, the last couple of years. There was never a 5.45 manufactured in the United States. It was all steel case. That's only changed over the last year or so when Hoarding's come up with they manufacture a brass case 5.45. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that there was the ammunition was harder to come by. A lot less of it was being imported. The other thing was too is for the reloaders, you don't have options for bullets. So far as I know right now, the only one you have is I think it's a 60 grain AMAX is the only round. You're looking at that .221 diameter projectile. There, that is it. There, you don't have any selection. Like even with 760 by 39, you at least have a few choices. And it never caught on really first fires reloading, but it was brought in by the droves. I love the caliber myself. I'm a big 5.45 fan. I like it a lot, but I think a lot of it had to do with the ammunition related issue. There wasn't any U.S. based ammunition manufacturers to support it if there was another importation ban on ammo. I mean, if you think about it, if say Biden does get in there and he does put a ban on imports of ammunition, if he puts a ban on import ammunition, all you have is Hornady making you 5.45 ammunition. So now you've pretty much got a crowbar or baseball bat to hit somebody with. So that's one of the concerns, at least the 760 by 39, you have every manufacturer making it, even though it's a lot more expensive than the Russian stuff.
This guy seems to think that I'm being rude to you, that I said that you can't learn to edit. And that's less complicated than all the stuff that you learned about guns.
I can't. I think the computer stuff just drives me nuts.
That guy clearly has never worked in Adobe Premiere Pro.
I look at the stuff that gives me a headache.
I'm self-taught, and I was a paralegal, so I didn't go to school for computer anything. So, Tad on Donor Box, thank you, Tad. He wants to know: do you think the ammo scarcity that's going on is going to make people reconsider 40, 45, and 357 SIG? Because 9mm has pretty much become a unicorn, whereas at least the stores I go to, those other three can be found more consistently these days. Sometimes I think the Colt of 9mm has gone overboard because I'm sick to death of nothing but new striker fire polymer 9mm pistols being released every year by all these companies, and all the other calibers are kicked to the curb.
A lot of companies, in fact, if you look at Glock right now, Glock is solely doing 9mm in their new R&D. They have not been bothering with any other caliber because that's what their law enforcement and their military calibers are. So that's what you're seeing. For as far as the ammunition is concerned, I mean, obviously it does not hurt to have some of those off calibers for situations just like this, where you may see some more ammunition that's out there. I like 357 SIG. I like 45 Gap. I'm not much of a 10mm fan. It's just a little bit too heavy for anything that I want to do with it. But I certainly think that if you have something that the ammunition is available for, go for it. It's good to have some of those off brand things just for a case like this.
David wants to know thoughts on JP bolt and carriers.
Very expensive. The bolts, his enhanced bolt is quite well. It's strong. However, he did nothing to improve the extraction, ejection, and so on and so forth. The carrier, well made. It's got some good points for as far as contact points for it to operate smoothly. But again, he did nothing to increase dwell time. There's no reliability enhancement in that carrier whatsoever. He has some that he has reduced weight. That's all great for a competition gun, but not for a self-defense gun. I did mess around with his 308 carriers for a little while, and it didn't make sense. The money didn't make sense for what I was getting. And any of you guys who are using these guns for self-defense, you are so far better off going with a standard mil-spec bolt carrier than you are one of those. You're not going to see getting that much of a benefit to warrant the cost.
Adnan wants to know, besides the LMT unobtainium coating finish of their bolt, is the metal material itself of what the bolt or the BCG is made out of also proprietary?
The bolt is a very proprietary material. Hell, I work for those guys. I never was even, I worked for them. I was never able to figure that out. That is a proprietary material that they use. It's part of the reasons why it's more expensive is because it's more expensive the tools to cut it. The stuff it doesn't last as long. But the carrier is a standard material. The carrier, what makes that special is the cam track, the way the gas is vented, as well as the way the gas enters the carrier from the key.
Any input on DSA Arms AR-15s? I bought one, and it seems very well made for a decent price.
Yeah, I just did a review on one of them, the Z4. They are excellent rifles. They do a beautiful job. They have a lot of really cool proprietary stuff that they do. For instance, the way the bolt locks into the buffer, that's really awesome. They do a lot with titanium, parts, excellent barrels. They do a very beautiful job, and they manufacture a lot of stuff in-house as well. I definitely recommend DS Arms. I've done a couple of reviews. In fact, I just did one not too long ago on one of their rifles. It had a significant amount of the lightweight titanium parts.
What's with the lack of slick side AR-10, AR-308 uppers?
I know a lot of people. In fact, I'll tell you a little story about two of my friends. So the first one is Mark Westrom. The next one's Carl Lewis. Mark Westrom, when he designed his AR-10, he designed it like it was supposed to be, without a forward assist. He was adamantly against it. After, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 years, people kept calling and complaining because it didn't have it. He's trying to tell them that it's useless on the AR-10, doesn't belong on there, and everybody just wanted it. And Mark got wore down to the point where, he did it just to appease him. The reality is, a lot of times when you try to use a 5.56 millimeter forward assist on a 308, the mass of that bolt, the pulp will crack right off of the forward assist and it won't work. Carl Lewis I think he's been fighting the same battle. He's kept stuck to his guns literally and not put it on, but he's getting foreign customers who are demanding it now and trying to tell them that this is a bad idea. Well, you get put to that point where you know that it's the wrong thing to do, but your customers want it. So what do? You give your customers what they want. And I think that's what's happened with a lot of these manufacturers is the AR-15's got one, so the AR-10 should have to have one. So they go ahead and they do it just to appease the customers. So the reasons why you're seeing that is not because it's beneficial to the system, nor even the designers wanted it. It was because the customers called and complained and bitched and moaned, said it was lesser quality because they didn't have it and they wanted it. So that's your answer. That's coming straight from guys in the industry who've been adamantly against it and are being forced to either look at it or make the change.
Chris wants to know, what is your favorite 80s and 90s cool factor firearm?
Probably 80s and 90s would be the Beretta 92. I really always like that. And I have another one.
That's from what's that movie?
Die Hard.
Yes.
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon. That's what I was thinking of.
Another one probably. As you guys have talked, I talked in the past. I don't like Smith & Wesson autoloaders. Period. However, the 4006 has always been intriguing to me because Smith & Wesson designed that with the 40 S&W cartridge. So I'd always had an interest in that one, and then I do own a 4006. I would never carry it. I think it's a freaking boat anchor. But there was some history there, and probably the other one would be the HK USP 40, which came about in 1994. So those are probably some of my more favorite ones from that time period. And I still have all those guns to this day.
Bill Rogers, thank you for your donation on DonorBox. I do not see a question attached. If you want to email me at hbartachi@smallarmsolutions.com, we'll send it to you after the chat. Or if you want to plug it in here, I'll try to pay attention to it. Otherwise, emailing me would be better because I'll see it quicker. Any opinion on rifle versus carbine buffer tube for a 6.5 Creedmoor rifle length gas system? A5 is too expensive.
Quite frankly, I would with a rifle like that. So it's a large rifle. I probably would want to go with a full size stock, anyways. For the most part, it's going to depend on how the rifle's gassed. The ones that I have here utilize an H3 buffer. There's the three of them that I have here are using H3. The lowest machine tool is probably the one that I like the most. A 24-inch barrel that utilizes an H3. A lot of it just depends on how the rifle's gassed. But quite frankly, that's a DMR type rifle. I think you're far better off with the full size stock on that one.
Did you ever do the AR magazine review video?
No, that one is right behind me. All those magazines. I've been putting it together.
We have a lot of videos to film.
I've gotten my tabletop stuff ready to film. It's just a matter of getting everything organized and getting it done.
Is that like code for Heather? You need to come and film me.
Well,
No. Heather is always the one who's like, we need to film now.
Yeah, that's.
But I think it's one of those. It keeps getting bumped to the back because there's other stuff that needs to be filmed first, and so it's like it's there, and then other things take priority over it.
We've had several of our viewers who sent guns into us.
Yes.
And I try to get those back as soon as I can because it takes time. So I've been working on that.
Even Michiko too, who we just returned one of his guns.
I just returned that GA 5 to William Michiko. Yeah. And we have the next one I got to work on is one of the viewers loaned us a POF, the P415, or I'm sorry, the P416. So I want to get that one done coming up here next, and then I have this one where I've got a loan from Brandon to do the buying ARs on a budget, which unfortunately there's a problem with the Radian firearms rifle, not Radian, but the which one was that? Radical Firearms. I had a problem with that one. It had to go back, so that's gonna set me back a little bit. And I'm still waiting for the Core 15 rifles to come in for that one as well. So it's trying to just juggle which ones get done first, what's ready, and
that's always a good problem to have, though. Instead of like, I don't know what to review because I have nothing. So we actually have a new video that's going to be going up tomorrow. Before I forget, let everybody know on Rock River Arms. What is it?
That's their 350 Legend.
Yes. So we have that going up on Thursday, and then I will be back in editing for the next 48 hours to get y'all another one up on Sunday. So we have some good stuff coming. And what's that one for Sunday? I don't even remember. We filmed it. See, you don't remember either.
Oh, that's going to be the Banshee 9mm.
Okay. So that'll be up on Sunday. So, but the one for tomorrow is locked and loaded and ready to go. It's going to be, I think I have it premiering at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So it's a short one too. It's under 10 minutes. So you guys who hate the long ones, you'll be happy to see something short and in and out. That's why I wanted to give you something else. Frank on DonorBox. Thank you, Frank. I'm well aware of Chris hating M14s, but I want a 308 and the M1A is $12.99 cheaper than most AR-10s in Alaska.
I don't care. I would still spend the extra money. I would still go with a nice AR-10. Hell, if you want to get a decent one for not a lot of money, go look at the Diamondback. The AR-10s they're very, very well made. The SIG tread, you're going to be seeing a video coming up on that one really soon. Another excellent option, significantly better than that of the M14. Spend the money, dude.
Would you trust a Charter Arms for self-defense?
Funny thing is, when those came out, that was the most popular police department backup gun that there was. In my experience with those, if those are used as defense guns and not as target guns, they're pretty good. They're not designed to be a target shooting gun. So if they're used as intended, I think you'll do very, very well with it. It's just not a gun. It's designed for you to go to the range every week with it.
Now, my LE 6920 is stamped R on barrel under the handguard. What's that mean?
That is a code for the manufacturer who made it, and unfortunately, I can't recall who that one is.
Ooh.
W was Wilson. R would be the subcontractor who made the barrel.
Ooh. That kind of sucks, right?
Yeah. Roscoe? I'm not sure.
Are you going to review the B&T APC9K?
I have been trying to get my hands on one. There was one of the viewers said that he'd be interested in letting me loan one. So if that happens, absolutely. I have not had any contacts at B&T. I've talked to Tim Harmson over at Military Arms Channel. He's got some contacts there, and he's going to try to help me figure that one out. But I would actually love to. I'd also like to try their that 5.56 they have as well.
Why are the standard LMT MWS rifles in 308 made with 16-inch barrels instead of 18-inch barrels?
The 16-inch barrel was the original one for the Quote assault rifle. Their rifle version. It was also the requirement that the British put out for the L129, and I think that it just stuck. They offer several different types of barrels, barrel lengths and barrel types. My preference is the 18-inch stainless steel. I think it's the best all-round barrel that there is the 18-inch. Now, for a rifle that you want more of a assault rifle versus a DMR type, a 16-inch chrome line barrel would be ideal. If you want something that's going to give you more accuracy and precision, probably your best overall is the 18, but you also can get a 20-inch barrel. You can only get really whatever you want from them. But when it all started off, 16-inch was the one that the British wanted, and it's also the most common in carbines to this day is the 16-inch barrels.
I'm going to answer this one. This is from Drew. He says, hope all is well. I would like to ask my question again after not getting an answer from a few months ago on a donation question I submitted. I don't know what happens sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't go through. I had somebody recently who emailed me actually a couple times. Unfortunately, he was very kind about it. And he said, I didn't get a response. And I even forwarded the email from, several weeks before, and he still didn't even get that one. So then the second time around when he emailed me again, I was like, no, we responded to you on the 16th and actually screenshotted it and sent it to him. So email me at hbartachi@smallarmsolutions.com. I will go through my sent folder. It may have not gone out. I sometimes have problems with my email because I have the newsletter on my email. And so because I'm sending out a mass emails to 700 people at a time for the newsletter, sometimes stuff is not going through, but it's not telling me it didn't go through. But we're very good at responding to, especially if you did a donation within a few hours. But we certainly want to take care of you and get it resolved. So just email me and we'll figure out what happens. Hunter on Donor Box says, are there aftermarket barrels for SIG 716i tread? Does it use a DPMS pattern upper?
Actually, I have one right behind me. It appears to be DPMS pattern, but I don't have anything here to check. For as far as the barrels are concerned, I would have to really take a look at it. I would imagine the barrel interface is going to be standard. I can't imagine it being any different. The upper receiver, it is rounded off instead of being squared off. So there's probably a good chance that it's DPMS pattern, but without actually, trying to drop one on. And quite frankly, I don't think I have too many ones here that are DPMS pattern. Most everything I have here is AR-10 type.
I think that's so funny that you always have something right behind you that somebody has. You're like, oh, right here.
Yeah, that's the 716 tread behind me. That's one you're going to be seeing coming up really soon.
Okay, Brandon wants to know, I'm slowly building a HK 416 clone with a 416 upper, Brownell's barrel and bolt, and the rest German parts, and it's mostly going fine and dandying, having trouble finding a full auto BCG, so I may have to settle for a semi-automatic one temporarily.
I thought Brownell's had those.
But a few days ago, I checked HK USA. I was horrified to find out that the MR556A1 was in limited production. Does that mean it's no longer being made due to the coronavirus, or that only a small amount is being made? Either way, it sucks because I want the lower receiver because it retains the squared off magwell. And as far as I know, it's compatible with a registered drop-in auto sear. And you want to answer that first because he has something else after that.
Well, first off, HK has had very limited productions. I personally have been waiting for an MR762 for over a year. And they just ran those a couple months ago. These are made in the U.S. A lot of American-made parts. HK's been making doing a lot of military stuff. I think the entire MR series in both 7.62 and 5.56 are in very, very rare. They're very, very rare at the moment. HK just got bought out by a new company. There's a new company who owns them now. I don't know how that's going to affect the commercial sales here in the United States. Those of you who know that HK they're very much like Colt in effect. They're all about the government contracts and law enforcement contracts. The commercial end of it is the smallest end and the smallest priority. How the 7.62 that I've been waiting for. There was only 3 of them allotted to a major distributor that I work with. Only 3 guns to one of the largest law enforcement distributors in the country. So that goes to show you how few of these guns are available. I don't know what the future is going to hold for them. HK's had a lot of financial issues. They're planning on making a profit here in 2020 under this new company. They didn't break down what part of the business is going to be law enforcement, what's going to be commercial, and what's going to be military. None of that information was given, but yeah, the stuff's very hard to get. And I'm really surprised that you had a hard time with the full auto bolt carrier, because I thought Brownells had a whole bunch of them in stock.
And then the other part of it was, if I were to ask Colt nicely enough, you think they would sell a new production IAR upper to a normal peasant, non-mill cop. I really like the way it looks, but the only ones I found for sale are old smelly contract guns. I'll have to settle with them if Colt says no, though.
I would highly doubt they don't do too much direct at all. You probably would be better off going to like Arms Unlimited or somebody like that and seeing if they can order something like that for you. I don't know how often Colt makes those. You see, when it comes to specialized guns like that Colt has to have a certain amount of them for them to be able to build them. So they may have a certain time, like for you guys who like the Colt 9mm SMGs and carbines, those are only made once a year. So it would depend if Colt didn't have any government contracts or law enforcement contracts for the IAR, they're not going to produce them. They're not going to produce, a handful of them. They're going to have at least a full production run. So my guess is they're going to tell you no. They're going to tell you to go place an order with one of their distributors, and then see whenever it is you're far. Of course, you're going to get raped on cost, but you're probably going to be better off finding them on Gunbroker, finding the upper receivers. That's a tough one, unfortunately.
Drew wants to know if hopefully this isn't your question that you already paid for, Drew, because otherwise you should have emailed me, because I want to make sure that you're taken care of. For everybody, that's always, we try to take care of everybody's questions. If I make a fully automatic machine gun, but there is no round in the world that would fit the barrel chamber size, does that still make it illegal?
Yeah, because you could always really readapt that barrel to something else. You could make some kind of a strange cartridge, but you still have a mechanism that can be adapted to something else. Those are certainly questions I would have for ATF, but machine guns don't fall under the carry-on relic clauses. I mean, you're not going to be able to do that.
TC wants to know, got myself a Swedish Mauser made in 1902. The 6.5 by 55 is a great cartridge. Seems modern 6.5 or just reinventing the wheel. And hi from Western Australia.
Australia. My daughter is dying to come. My daughter she's like totally in love with koala bears, and we are going to have to bring her to Queensland so she can hold a koala bear.
Oh my God, she's obsessed.
Interesting.
She's 11, and yeah.
Interesting thing about the 6.5 in general is throughout history, the Scandinavian countries and all that, they've always said that was the better way to go. And I had worked with a company who had a client in Scandinavia who was interested in them making a assault rifle in 6.5 Grendel, and we worked on it. And the problem was it was okay in some automatic, but full automatic, the thing wouldn't work for shit. The cartridge is not conducive with being fired in a machine gun or something in fully automatic. So, there's a lot of those countries that they were always a fan of it. But, again, once NATO gets something, it forces it down their throats, and that's the way that it goes.
Ernest Langdon just announced a special modified Beretta 92 that can have a red dot optic installed. Would you consider getting one?
I consider reviewing one. You know, there's a couple pistols that I have that I put the red dots on. I have a G17M, I got one on. I have a G41 45 auto, I've got one on. And as soon as I get my hands on another one, it's going to be going on my FNX 45. But overall, on standard pistol, I'm not too fond of them just because they're over. You know, they're big. It's ungodly in size. But they are accurate as hell. You know, all three of those guns that I've had on them, those things shoot centers out of targets.
I love Rod's question. Why is there an ammo shortage?
There's ammo shortage because people are hoarding ammo.
Why is there a toilet paper shortage? Because people needed the ammo so that they could guard their toilet
That's
paper.
right. Oddly enough, the manufacturers are producing more ammo than normal.
Oh, they're probably loving it.
So the fact is that there isn't a shortage for as far as they are concerned. The shortage is in the demand, the people hoarding it. So yeah, it's this is on the demand end. It's not on the production end.
And if you're in the Gulf Coast, you're seeing all these storms that are starting to brew, that are coming in. And it's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
We have ammo covered, though, in case you guys haven't seen behind us. We're good with ammo. I feel like, you know, with 4 kids and six of us, we'll be able to like defend Bartocci land here. John on Donor Box wants to know thoughts on getting either the Geissele URGI upper or get another BCM Recce upper for an ultimate AR build. I want it to be as solid as possible.
Well, I have other manufacturers who I have a preference over. Myself, if I'm looking for a Recce, I'm going straight to my undeclared Centurion Arms. I think he makes the finest Recce out there, the finest barrel that's out there. For as far as the URGI, I haven't really had an opportunity to test any of those myself. BCM certainly makes good stuff. There's no question there, but they're more of an assembly house where I have a lot of trigger time on the Centurion, and to me, that'd be the way to go for that. It wouldn't, there's no question.
David says, I'm kind of hoarding, and M. Smith says, I'm hoarding Butterfingers. I think we're hoarding everything at this point. Mm. Even if you didn't think you were going to be a hoarder before, you have to become a hoarder. You got to take care of yours at the end of the day.
Yes.
Any future videos in the Ultimax 100?
Not in the works. Not in the works.
Have you had any experience with Holosun red dots, or are they of good quality in your mind?
I have been on the phone and in emails with a gentleman, Mr. Savino, over at Holosun, trying to get some T&E units from them. I've heard good things. I have not had the opportunity to test them yet, but there's been a shortage of T&E units from Holosun. I can assure you I am working on that, and as soon as some become available to me, you will be hearing about them.
Sean says, I've been a gun, ammo, food, and TV hoarder my whole life. I never really have. Even when all of this was coming down, I was like, oh, no, it's ridiculous. No. Now I'm like, no. I keep going back to the store and getting more, especially now with the hurricane stuff coming. I'm like, 2020 has been such a mess. I'm like, we're going to get hit with 2 hurricanes back to back.
Another busy night tonight, 331 so far right now.
Everybody hit the thumbs up button. That's your one job for the night. Alex, G3 style rifles, the best 308 semi-auto battle rifle next to the Scar 17S, reliability, weight-wise, or a modern affordable AR-10s battle ready?
G3, no way. The recoil on that is ungodly. They're not known for really the accuracy that they are. They're not what you would refer to as a user-friendly type, being able to reload quickly. Bolt doesn't lock open the last shot. It's definitely a gun of the past, in my opinion. Scar 17, good rifle. It's very, very expensive. Is it worth the cost? I don't think so. There are several AR-10s that are out there that they give you the best of all worlds for as far as loading, unloading, locking back the last shot, easy manipulation with your hand staying on the pistol grip. Accurate as can be. Options. None of those platforms offers you the versatility that the AR-10 platform does.
And almost no any chance of doing a collaborative video with Monty LeClaire from Centurion Arms in the near future.
I don't know about the near future, but it's already been discussed.
It's been discussed for a long time.
He was going to be bringing out a couple of his new designs out to see me. Then COVID hit. But I think you will definitely be seeing that at some point when travel is permissible again. Yeah, as I said, Monty and I have been good friends for a long time. There's not a lot of companies out there who I really will tell you that you can buy anything from him and you're going to be able to trust your life on it. It's true, you can. You've got a guy who Monty's not going to let anything slip by that's not perfect. He's not going to put out something that he wouldn't carry himself. And that's what his integrity is. And he does not skimp. He's not going to try to make the cheapest rifle in the industry. He's not going to do that. He wants to make the best. And he wants to make it at a price you're going to be able to afford.
That's why I said earlier when the guy said that, he looks for you if you've reviewed a weapon to see if it's something that he wants to buy, because he won't just make a video to make a video like a lot of people will do, because they're probably getting paid for it. It's a sponsored video. It's, some kind of agreement where they're getting the gun for free to make the video, whether they like it or not. We don't do that. We don't do that over here. That's not what we do. Everything is built on his credibility and reputation. And so if we endorse a product or say yes to it, then it's good. It's good to go. I couldn't sit here and shill anyone and waste their money on anything.
No.
That's why the videos that we have done on products that you don't like the Expanse, he loves Colt, but people say you're a Colt hater because of that stuff. He absolutely loves Colt. He doesn't.
You'll never find a bigger Colt fan than me. There's nobody who has blue blood deeper than I do. I've dedicated my life to the company. If they do something good, I'm going to tell you. If they do something bad, I'm going to tell you. You're going to get more information because that's what I've studied my whole life. I have a lot of information to give on that.
That's why we only have, as many times we've been contacted by companies like Olight and all those other places, we have no interest, none. We only do affiliate codes with Centurion, Manta, and G96, because these are products that he uses and believes in. And I dare anyone to come and say any of them are crap, because we only associate it with those three companies in order to be able to bring it to you and offer a discount so that you spend your money wisely and not wastefully. But, if anybody who doesn't have those codes, I'm popping it in so that you do have them. Thank you, Pierce.
Thank you.
How's it going? Mo, do you have a recommended company that can turn one of my Beretta 92 Centurion pistols into a full Inox finish on the pistol?
10% stainless steel. I would not do that. If you want an Inox, buy it. What it's going to cost you to basically strip down that frame, those parts, the barrel steel. No, it's completely and utterly not worth it. If you want one, buy one that way.
Big Dog says, with all the politics on YouTube gun channels right now, it's nice to have a place where we can come and just talk guns. Yes, for sure. I know a lot of people do Q&As differently than I do them, and I have them set up because I believe that this is the best way to do it. I know some people don't always agree with that. People, would like to have, in the description, a list of all the questions and timestamps. Unfortunately, it's impossible because I literally try to go through as many questions as possible, and not just paid questions. I want it to be at least even at the end of the day, so that people that don't have the money to spend to donate can get their question asked and answered. But so that there's not also some kind of format where people have to submit questions and then we pre-approve them beforehand and do it. I want it to just be a free floating. Let's get as many done as possible. Hunter wants to know, follow-up question on the SIG 716i tread. Did you mean that most likely ballistic advantage barrel will work in a SIG 716i tread? How come DPMS pattern was copied by more manufacturers for AR-10? DPMS is not known as a good quality brand from what I know.
Everybody has to have their own, if you want to call it, their own stamp on things. If you look at the time when the guns came out, the AR-10 pattern was what the original Armalites were. That's what Reed Knight first came out with his SR-25. When Mark Westrom came out with his AR-10, he had that. I think what ended up happening was DPMS at that time were looking to build their own rifle, so they designed their own and they wanted it proprietary. And it just happened to be that they probably built a lot cheaper rifles, but made a lot more of them. And it caught on, and those ended up being your basic two platforms. Now, there are other ones as well. For instance, the Colt LE901, that's its own platform. The POF Revolution's its own receiver platform. There are ones that are different. But if you go back to when the AR-10s really hit the commercial market in the really early 1990s, those were your first companies that came out with it. DPMS was the first one to come with it, outside of Armalite and Knights, and they did it their own way.
Thank you, EH said I bought my first AR, a KAC SR15. Thanks for all the helpful videos.
That's what we're here for. Glad you guys enjoy it. As I said, I personally do enjoy the interactions with you guys. I mean, there's not much point in spending out your whole career doing this stuff if you don't share it with people.
Would having the Mark 12 benefited from the original 20-inch barrel, or is it fine with its 18-inch barrel?
If you take a look at my video I did on the history of the Mark 12, you will find that the Mark 12 was originally supposed to be a 20-inch barrel. However, SOCOM wanted a match grade 20-inch barrel. When they submitted it to have it bought, DoD said, no, we're not going to buy another 20-inch barrel because we already have one in the inventory, which was the standard M16A2, M16A4 barrel. So in order for them to be able to get the barrel that they wanted, they ended up taking it down to 18 inches. So that way there was no other 18-inch barrels in there, so now they could order the barrel the way that they wanted it. Therefore, you have the 18-inch Mark 12 barrel. So that's sort of the story behind that. It was originally supposed to be a 20-inch, but due to procurement issues, they ended up going with the 18-inch.
Do you run a beaver tail on your Glock?
On some of them I do, yes, because I have size Sasquatch hands. So I do put the beaver tail on all of them just because of the size of my hands.
David wants to know on Donor Box, thank you, David, are pistol caliber carbines good for home defense?
It's an interesting thing that you bring that up, because this has been a debate that's been going on in law enforcement and throughout the world forever. Believe it or not, the high caliber 5.56s are better for home defense than the pistol calibers, because the 5.56 bullets generally will come apart in mortar and in wallboard, where a pistol caliber will go right through. The smaller caliber projectile has, believe it or not, more penetration and barriers than a lot of. Obviously, you'd want like a 52 grain projectile, something with a very thin jacket on it that would break apart. But the 9mm, you'd be surprised if you were to try doing some tests on some drywall and some 2x4s and whatnot, and see the difference between the 5.56 versus the pistol calibers.
Somebody asked earlier about the what would Stoner do rifle or carbine, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I hadn't really gotten to that one yet, and Lord knows we've asked and answered it every single Q&A. But Sean's response was that it's hot garbage, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. So basically, he agrees with Sean.
Yes, sir, I do.
Have you ever seen the shell deflector Fortis's cover come loose on the Voltor MUR uppers, and how can I make it more secure?
I have several, and I can't say as I've ever had that happen. I'm trying to think offhand how that's held in place, and I want to say that there's some kind of a screw or a pin, but unfortunately I'm drawing a blank at the moment of exactly how that's done. Send Heather a text or an email on that one.
Text.
An email, and let me take a look into that, because again, I'm having a hard time remembering how that's held in place.
Just send me an email right now or after the Q&A, whatever you want to do, at hbartachi@smallarmsolutions.com, and we will get an answer for you. Just remind me of your question, and then we'll fix it. Scott, I lucked into a Mark LE 901 on a trade recently. What's your opinion on the viability of one in 2020, or should I try to keep the round count low?
This is the thing on that gun. The LE 901 series is a completely proprietary firearm to Colt. You will not find any bolt carriers, any parts that are interchangeable with any other models. So, same thing with barrels. So keep in mind that if a part breaks, you need to get that part from Colt. So for as far as wanting to have a high round count out of it, when you have to worry about parts breaking, It probably isn't the best gun to be doing a lot of high round counts. What you should be doing, if you can, is trying to find some place where you can get spare extractors, firing pins, extractor springs, bolt, any of those parts, which could certainly break. I have an LE901 myself, and I was able to get a while back some of the spare parts, some of those smaller parts. That's one of the only problem with that gun is that it's completely proprietary. You can't go to LMT and buy an extractor for it or buy a firing pin. The thing is completely proprietary.
Adnan on Donor Box, thank you, Adnan. He wants to know, during the time that Colt Defense developed the enhanced version of the SCAR Type C, the LE1020, their external piston AR, did Colt Canada have some involvement in developing some of the Colt's external piston rifles? You've made a brief mention of Colt Canada in your video called The History of the Colt External Piston System.
No, that was done completely here in the States. At the time, Colt Canada was working on their IUR, which Colt Canada has never made an external piston. They've only done internal. They had nothing to do with it. The 1020 was totally on Colt. I actually have one of the only ones that ever left the factory in my collection. It was a gift from General Keys for some work I did for them, publicity work I did for them back around, I'd say 2006. It was a direct descendant of what you're having now is the APC or the I6940P with some very interesting variations. I did do a video. It's called The History of Colt External Piston, and it goes over everything and it explains every detail of the changes. From the original 703 to the Type C to the 1020 to the 6940P. It gives you all that details.
Heath on Donor Box says, "Hey guys, thank you for everything." Thank you so much, Heath.
Thank you.
How much ammo should you really have per AR-15?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a prepper.
I don't know. Those racks behind you say otherwise.
Well, oddly enough, I mean, you look at that. I'm not a prepper. That's all stuff that I do for my work. I mean, I think I was out to the range on Monday. I think we fired well over 1,000 rounds of various things. I can go through 1,000 to 5,000, 6,000 rounds in a month. So the ammunition that you see there, it's work ammo. It's stuff that we use for testing. It's not anything that's hoarding.
Speaking of ammunition, Chris did a really romantic thing for me. If you guys are on our Q&As regularly, you might hear me complain about the fact that I can't move my legs in any way because he has ammo stacked from floor to underneath this desk. So I'm literally buckled in. I cannot move for the entire hour and a half. He actually cleared it out for me. I can actually stretch my leg out. It's amazing. Q&A might last longer now. I can move a little bit.
I guess if I had to guess, I'd probably say at least a couple thousand, 3,000 rounds per weapon system.
Well, I have a question. Does ammo expire?
No. I fired ammunition from World War II. As long as the stuff's kept in a good environment where it's not humid and it's not corroding, this stuff keeps.
Because you still have the ammo that I gave you for
Yes, I do.
Valentine's Day,
and that would work just fine if I decide I want to shoot it, but I don't want to.
What do you think about a polymer lower with a metal parts kit, and would you recommend it?
For an AR?
He doesn't say.
Give me a little bit more details on what you're talking about there.
This is for Cassidy Bronson.
If you're talking about a polymer, you have the American Tactical Omni Max. If you're looking for a polymer, that's the ultimate polymer hanger or lower receiver that does work and it will not break on you. I can't tell you how many thousands of rounds through. I have one in my desk, and plus I work with that company on improving that weapons platform over the last few years, and they've come a long ways with it. And I don't have the polymer kit in there. I have a steel kit for as far as the fire control group in it.
Would you recommend changing the springs on a 98-year-old pistol if it's still in decent working order? And then it looks like it says or I can't say
if
that.
If it's not a defense gun, it's something you just have in a collection, I'd leave it alone.
7.65 Browning.
Yeah, 3.2 auto. If it's something you're going to be carrying, I would definitely just for reliability. But if it's something that you just have in your collection, I wouldn't fix it if it ain't broken.
Should Colt reissue the 45 Colt new service?
No, they should not reissue anything. They should make new things.
Chris, if you could please indulge us, was your experience with 6.5 Grendel with an AR platform or another animal?
No, it was a 6.5 Grendel was an AR platform. In fact, it was an incredible rifle. It was a Core 15 rifle that I was shooting one MOA with at 1,000 yards. No, that was not the Grendel. That was the Creedmoor. That was a 6.5 Creedmoor. The Grendel, I think I've shot in a couple different calibers, or a couple different rifles. One of them was a MGI Hydra with a Brownells barrel, and then I had another one. It was also I think it was a CMMG. Excellent rifles, accurate as can be. As I said, they're just not conducive with a military type rifle.
Is the POF USA heatsink barrel nut proprietary to only their own rifles, or could it be used on standard AR-15, AR-10 barrels?
I believe it's going to be proprietary because you're going to have to use their kind of a handguard, the way that it sits. I can't tell you for sure because I've never really tried it. It does work. Is it necessary? I would only say if you're firing a lot of full automatic fire, would it be useful? It's one of those things where it does what it's intended, but are you going to be driving your rifle to that kind of a firing schedule? And a semi-automatic rifle, I don't think you would really benefit from it too much.
Love the crime guns. What was the most unusual, obscure, exotic, expensive firearm you had in your lab used in a crime?
Well, we had an incident in Rochester, New York, where one of the local distributors, Amtar Wholesale, had an entire shipment of HK pistols stolen out of UPS. And we're talking Mark 23s, we're talking USPs, we're talking all their highest end. At that time, there was P7 M8s and everything. And we had gotten a list at the lab of the serial numbers. And I'll never forget the day where we had a DUI that came in and it had a Mark 23. I almost freaking died when I saw that. And of course, then I looked at the cross-reference the serial number, and it was one of those ones that were used. We had seen some decent stuff, some nice stuff, but it was all stuff that would end up being stolen. We had one, it was an HK 91 that had it was all the forest green color, the green furniture, and all that stuff that was stolen. We had a really expensive Colt Custom 1911 that came in one time out of somebody's personal collection. And then occasionally you'd have a domestic disturbance where the police would come in and they would take all the guns out of the house for safekeeping, while the domestic thing got sorted out. And you would see some really, really nice stuff. But generally, if you saw nice stuff, it was stuff that was stolen. Then we work in a lab. Another examiner who didn't like guns. So when one of those guns would come through, he would scribe the case number and everything right on them, which immediately when you do that, you just totally destroyed the value of the gun. There was two of us at the lab who were gun people, and unless it was a gun that was sawed off or used at a homicide, we would use a Sharpie to write the case numbers on it so it could be just wiped off in case it went back. But we had this one guy who didn't like guns and basically said it was your own fault if you got it stolen. And he destroyed guns that were worth thousands of dollars just to be a prick.
Do you have any experience with the super cheap Bear Creek Arsenal uppers?
No, this one I've been asked about in the past. When I was looking at doing, these buying ARs on a budget, it was one of the ones I had looked at. But quite frankly, a lot of stuff that I read about them was not really that great. So it wasn't one that I really wanted to put into this particular series. That's not saying that I wouldn't get one at a later date to review. But at the moment, it really wasn't. The quality wasn't really up to par where I wanted to mess around with it for as far as this video coming up on buying them on a budget.
Your opinion on the Remington 870 Police versus Mossberg 590A1?
This is interesting because I've always been very opinionated on it because of the feels of the gun. I had always preferred the Remington 870 over the Mossberg. When you would rack the slide on a Remington versus a Mossberg, the Remington always just felt that much more secure. The bolt always felt that much more durable. It always had a much better feeling to me. They were also more expensive generally. The Mossbergs were a lot cheaper. They used cheaper materials. Granted, the military's gotten contracts from the 590. I don't know if that was because of cost or what it was, but my opinion was I had always felt that the Remingtons were a lot higher quality. I did have a Remington 870 Express slug gun for a while, and of course then when I got my Benelli M1 Super 90, that went, and of course that went away for my M1014 or Benelli M4. shotgun. Only shotgun I own is the Benelli M1014. That's the only one I have any need for. But I did have a couple Remingtons when I was a kid.
I believe the AR is an ingenious design and well proven, but if internal piston is superior to external piston, why have there not been more new designs figuring the internal piston?
You have it's always the same family of weapons. There's not really any need to apply it to anything else. It was copied by the Koreans in the K1. They copied it, but the M16 M4 is the largest number of 5.56 millimeter rifles in the world are of this family of weapons. So I guess that answers that question. That this is the family of weapons that people are buying. If you look at the other rifles out there, the external pistons, they're basically all the same design, just with some minor changes, and they're adapted to different countries.
Any plans on examining Fulton Armory's line of M16 clones?
I have requested a couple from Fulton Armory, and they never got back to me. I requested one of their standard M16A4s and one of their M4s. I have reached out to those guys in the past and never got back to me. There's still a lot of companies out there because I'm only 55,000 people, subscribers. I'm not worthy of their help still. There's some ammunition manufacturers that are the same way, that until you reach 100 or 500,000 or more, wherever it is, they're not going to even look at me.
Were South Koreans issued any M16 variants in Vietnam?
Well, South Koreans have manufactured some of their own M16s in the country, and that's where the Daewoo came from. Ended up costing them more money for the license for Colt. It got too prohibitive for as far as cost was concerned, which is why the Koreans ended up going with the Daewoo. Daewoo factories, they had made the M16A1s there. They got the experience in building M16, so they were able to go over to their own. But Colt screwed themselves on that because they were too greedy with the royalties. In Vietnam, where the Koreans specifically, I can't tell you for sure. The Australians did. Pretty much any of our allies that were over there assisting us they did have access to American weapons.
Just finished my first AR build. Should I break it in with Wolf Gold or Remington 556 or Wolf Steel Case? I
don't use Wolf, period, in 556 or 223. So I don't recommend that at all. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of you may agree that, well, if a gun doesn't fire steel, it's no good, which I totally disagree. That steel cased ammunition is not made to NATO or SAMI specifications. It's light. If you have a rifle that's designed around 5.56 millimeter ammunition, that's what it should be shooting. It shouldn't be opened up to work with substandard ammunition, which is what a lot of manufacturers have been forced to do. So they have to open up the gas port, so it will cycle with that Wolf ammunition that you're talking about, with the low port pressures. And then when you put proper NATO ammunition in there, now the rifle's beating itself up because the action is sped up significantly because of that open ejection port. So I don't use the Wolf in any of that stuff. I only use Wolf in 760 by 39 and 545 and 760 by 54R. That's all I use steel in.
Thoughts of IWI TS12, 15 round semi-auto 12 gauge. Does it make sense in today's world, and why own it?
That's interesting. A couple of years ago, the last SHOT Show I was at, I had a chance to fire one at Media Day, and having to manually turn the magazine tube, I found very, very annoying. I've been trying to get one as a T&E for the last couple of years. I haven't had a lot of luck getting anything really out of IWI for the last couple of years. If I really had to give you my thoughts, I would take my Benelli M1014 M4 over it in a heartbeat. I think it's a far more robust weapon. I can carry 7 in the tube, 1 in the chamber, 1 in the carrier for a total of 9 rounds. The amount of time that it would take you to reload that IWI to get it back into action, to fully load those 3 tubes, I think is not worth the time that it would take to keep you out of the fight when you're trying to reload it. I think a lot of it has to do more with how you would apply it into your tactical situation. But from a mechanical standpoint, to me, I think it's very impractical.
How often have you seen or heard a buffer detent fail and cause issues with the system?
It only happens when the receiver is not made properly. If everything is moved forward, where what happens is when you close your upper and your lower receiver, the back of the bolt carrier should be pushing inward on the buffer, and it should no longer contact the buffer retainer pin. If that buffer retainer pin hole was drilled forward too far, it was drilled back too far, every time the mass would reciprocate, the buffer would reciprocate, the buffer would smash into that firing pin retaining pin, and it would do two things. It would damage the pin, and it would also wallow out the inside of the receiver. So basically what's happening is an improper receiver. Eventually you're going to break the pin, or you're going to wallow out the receiver to the point where you're not going to be able to have a retainer pin in there, period. So most quality guns, you're not going to have this problem. If you have a minor issue, you'll see the stippling. If you look at your buffer and you see stippling that goes all the way around, that would be from the buffer smashing into the pin during cycling. And of course, that rotates in there as well. Most of the time, it won't cause a problem in cycling. It won't be until you pull the gun apart and you'll see that everything comes out at once. Unless that the little tit on the end of the buffer retainer pin gets lodged in the trigger mechanism someplace. That's about the only way that's going to cause you too much of a problem.
Would you recommend the DB10, and would you recommend the DB10 for an end-of-world fight?
The DB10 is an excellent rifle. Now, Diamondback was a company I never really gave too much thought to. A few years back, I got a phone call for that. They wanted me to make them an armorer's manual for both their 10 and 15 series. So, you know, that's what one of the things that Small Arm Solutions does. So I did it, and I had the opportunity to look very closely at both families of weapons. And as I was going through them, taking them apart, taking the pictures for the manuals and everything, I became very, very impressed with them. The quality. And then as I was doing the research into the company, finding out that most of those parts, large parts, were made in-house. So after I got done with the manual, I said, I'm going to keep these guns. I want to do a review on them. And I had their full lineup of guns for both 5.56 and 308 65 Creedmoor. Took them out and shot them, and I got really, really impressed with the quality. The only thing that I do own a DB10. I told them I wanted a rifle, for my own collection for doing the manual. I got the 16-inch barrel one. The only thing that I did do was I swapped out the receiver extension for a standard AR-10, so I could use the full size H3 M4 buffer. I'm sorry, M4 buffer. They utilized the standard mil spec with a shorter buffer, which only has a 2 weights. And hell, I know it's just from taking the videos that I was seeing bolt carrier bounce. Does it really matter? No, it's some automatic only, but just being the engineering type guy that I am, I want everything to be perfect. So I swapped out, put an LMT receiver extension, an H3 buffer, and a standard AR-10 receiver extension on it. And I tell you, it's an accurate rifle. It's reliable as hell. It's well made. For the money, you can't beat it. I think that it would do anything that you would want it to.
Opinions on Mark 318 5.56. Did we do that one?
Interesting that you mentioned that. Is one of our viewers just sent me 100 rounds of that.
Yes, and he checked in about it too.
What I'm going to be doing is taking that to a lab that I deal with, and we're going to be doing a complete workup on Mark 318 versus Black Hill's new dual performance. Both 62 grain projectiles. Both of them have a similar in design. One's a little bit, the other one's a little bit different, and we're going to do a full workup on the terminal performance and whatnot with it. So you can look forward to that. That's probably going to be a while because, again, the lab that I use, they work it in when they get a chance, but we'll get full gel shots and everything on it.
It sounds like for a second you said Jello shots.
Gel, ballistic gel.
Do you think a lightweight BCG reduced power buffer spring, lightweight buffer, and larger gas port would cycle subsonic 7.62x39 that normally doesn't cycle in an AR-15?
I would not mess with it at all. I have, quite frankly, I got a case here of it's a subsonic that's manufactured by not S&B. It's manufactured by PPU. It doesn't cycle on any action. It's too light. I would not mess around with any rifle to try to make it work with that kind of ammunition, because for all the more you're going to be using it, you're primarily going to be using regular ball ammo. you're better off just trying to find something that's loaded up a little bit hotter than what you've got, or just firing it on single shot. I've fired quite a bit of the PPU single shot with the Ukrainian designed gas system that I've been working with the gentleman in Ukraine on, and I just use those. I cycle them manually. I would not mess around with trying to change out a whole system to work just for that.
Thank you, Mr. Almeida. He just says thank you. Appreciate it. What is your opinion on LaRue MBT triggers?
Don't have one. LaRue is one of these companies that I've tried getting stuff from for quite some time, and they've always told me they have no T&E program. And again, we don't make the money at this channel where I can afford to go out and buy guns like that to test.
Barely afford to send Michiko his gun back today.
Yeah, really. So since they don't want to send me one, I haven't had an opportunity to really do any kind of review. I mean, I hear good things about LaRue, but I've never actually pulled trigger on one.
Well, guys, I think we're going to shut it down for the night. Thank you so much to everybody who donated. Thank you for just coming in and asking your questions. If you have a question outside of the chat, we are available 7 days a week. We just ask that you make a donation to the channel. That link is on smallarmsolutions.com for a donor box, and you can put your question in the comment section, or you can just send me an email separately at hbertacci@smallarmsolutions.com. It just pays for Chris's time and keeps the channel going because we don't chill out.
Yes.
But thank you guys.
Thank you very much. We'll see you guys in a week or two.
Yes. Trying to be here next week.
Yes.
God forbid there's no hurricane. Everybody stay healthy and well. Oh, and Patreon, somebody just mentioned Patreon. There will be a Patreon Q&A. After I leave here, I'm going to go sit down and schedule that. I'm thinking Friday, so hopefully that's good. Anybody who's at the $10 level for Patreon, you get a private Q&A once a month, and there's no donations. And all questions are asked and answered. So it's a much smaller group. It's an easy flow. And you don't have to listen to me. You just get him.
You guys have a good night. Thank you.